Welcome back to OtakuDaiKun. Dai-chan here, and you're watching the Waifu Files, a series where we discover and celebrate various anime and games through their lovely ladies. Continuing our Halloween-themed October, we'll be shining a spotlight on the waifu from Higurashi no Naku Koro Ni. This story is peak anime horror, spanning a number of works from different media. Again, for the sake of my sanity though, I'll only be covering waifu who appear in the various anime adaptations. This means characters exclusive to the mangas, visual novels, pachinko, and mobile game spin-offs will not be featured here. But even with those exceptions, we have 18 waifu to cover. This includes characters who, merely by existing, spoil the great mysteries of Hinamizawa. If you want to avoid those spoilers, consider watching the anime first or playing the novels on Steam. That said, if you found yourself really confused by the story, perhaps my analysis will clear things up for you. The story of Higurashi no Naku Koro Ni focuses around a small rural village called Hinamizawa. Its people worship a deity known as Oyashiro-sama, and they try to downplay a series of mysterious murders and disappearances by blaming it on Oyashiro-sama's curse. Beyond rumors and superstition, Hinamizawa residents do suffer from a parasitic brain disease that propagates throughout the region. This Hinamizawa syndrome induces paranoid delusions, causing people to commit gruesome acts of violence with little provocation. The narrative focuses on several alternate timelines that start off innocent enough before slowly devolving into madness. It's worth noting that everyone in this anime is a victim, and under normal circumstances would never resort to the brutal killings like they do. Hinamizawa syndrome brings out the worst in each character it infects. As a result, the anime shows a stark contrast between wholesome slice-of-life moments and extreme depravity. Let's start off with the story's main antagonist, Mio Takano. Born with the name Miyako Tanashi, her parents died in a train accident. She then spent her childhood in an abusive orphanage, enduring cruel beatings and unsanitary conditions, stuff like being forced to clean toilets orally. Wanting to survive as her fellow orphans were tortured and killed, she joined a failed escape attempt, but was able to call her father's former professor, Hifumi Takano. Answering her bravery, Hifumi came and adopted her, saving her from genuine hell. Mio took on her new guardian's name and found herself enamored by his research. Hifumi studied Hinamizawa syndrome, and despite finding substantial evidence of the disease, sabotage from within the Japanese government and academic community had his publications mocked and disregarded. Mio had to watch her savior die from embarrassment, prompting her to dedicate her life to finally completing his research and validating it to the world. Sadly, this meant accepting funds from shady sources. The Tokyo organization offers to aid Mio for the chance to turn Hinamizawa syndrome into a bioweapon. The village is treated as a testing site for future warfare, and Mio hides this from the villagers while acting as their nurse at Irie Clinic. In this capacity, Mio develops both an antidote and a formula that actually induces the virus through injection. Her ultimate plan is to intentionally start an epidemic, one which the government cannot ignore. Once this starts, to prevent the spread of Hinamizawa syndrome, the villagers are exterminated in most timelines, regardless of the horrors already being committed through violent outbursts. Even Mio's lover, Jiro Tomitake, is used as no more than a sacrifice for her ambition. Ironically, he is the one who saves her from being executed when Tokyo chooses to abandon the project and place her as the cause. I can't possibly forgive Mio for her actions. Even though she was abused as a child, she was willing to murder 2,000 people for the sake of validation. Perhaps it's justice then that in one ending, her fate is changed from the onset, getting to live happily with her original parents. While that's nice, she gets no sympathy from me. Higurashi's true protagonist happens to be someone you'd least expect, Rika Furude, a quiet, adorable young girl. She is the only heir to the Furude clan, one of Hinamizawa's great three houses. As caretakers of Oyashiro-sama's shrine, it is believed that the Furudes are Oyashiro's descendants, and that Rika herself is the latest reincarnation of the god. Her parents were supposedly victims to Oyashiro-sama's curse, but in truth, they were killed by Mio for refusing to let Rika take part in experiments. You see, Mio is under the belief that Rika was born as the Queen Carrier, a living force that suppresses the Hinamizawa syndrome. Mio suspects that if Rika dies, the entire village will promptly go insane. Thus, the Tokyo organization makes sure to murder poor Rika at the end of most timelines. Unaware of this, Rika is led to believe her parents' murder was a suicide. As the clan's sole heir, Rika looks after the Furude shrine and acts as the star performer for Hinamizawa's annual cotton drifting festival. It's a nasty ritual meant to replicate how the villagers once sacrificed humans by tearing out their intestines, all in an effort to cast off sin. Fortunately, the modern version involves floating cotton balls down the river instead. Rika suffers the most from anyone in this story, because when she dies, she finds herself in the Sea of Fragments, a metaphysical space where alternate worlds float about as pieces of shattered crystal. Through it, her consciousness is able to drift between various alternate universes. This power curses her, in the sense that she is forced to relive the downfall of Hinamizawa over and over again. She has seen her friends and herself killed off hundreds of times, and without a deeper understanding of the syndrome or Mio's scheming, she continuously fails to avoid tragedy. Thus, beyond her cute, childish facade is a mature girl who has been trapped in time, corrupted by pessimism. She's only able to escape this loop with the help of her friends, as they start to remember their actions from other timelines. New possibilities start to emerge, and they allow Rika to uncover and thwart the Tokyo organization. She dearly loves her friends, but after all she's been through, Rika is desperate to move out of Hinamizawa and finally live without being trapped. To that end, she and her best friend Satoko attend St. Lucia Academy. While she hopes this can serve as a fresh start, it merely becomes the catalyst for her next tragedy. Another version of Rika exists within the Sea of Fragments. Frederica Berncastel is a being formed from the despair and hopelessness Rika feels across all her different timelines. Very little is shown of this adult Rika, but she is seen speaking with a young Mio in one timeline. She effectively persuades Mio to join her parents shopping, which happens to be the same outing they were fated to die in. Frederica seems to be able to hop between worlds at will, taking pleasure in toying with causality. By speaking with Miyako, she creates a world where the researcher Mio never exists, and Tokyo never invades Hinamizawa. It is in this world that Rika is shocked to see her own mother still alive. Back before her murder, Rika's mom struggled with parenting. Rika used to be distant and emotionless, putting a strain on their bond. Of course, that never stopped Rika's mom from doing her best in supporting her child. She protested against Mio experimenting on Rika, and, according to the manga, met her end by being dissected, forced to stay awake and feel it all. Yup, Mio's a wretched bitch. The reason Rika can visit the Sea of Fragments is because of Hanyuu Furude, the actual Oyashiro-sama. In ancient times, Hanyuu and her clan of demons journeyed to Hinamizawa and disguised themselves as humans. They hoped to coexist with humans, but Hanyuu was unable to hide her horns, prompting the villagers to discriminate against her. Regardless, she fell in love with Rika's ancestor, Rika Furude, and they had a child named Oka. Ironically, in an attempt to protect the villagers, she found herself corrupted by her demonic nature. She had become the very monster she once fought against. Hoping to stop herself, Hanyuu asked Oka to kill her using her own weapon. Reluctantly, Oka slew her own mother in what became known as the very first cotton drifting ceremony. Oka then was revered as the god Oyashiro-sama, which in turn raised Hanyuu to a godlike state. Unfortunately though, as time passed, the image and intentions of Oyashiro distorted. While she was compassionate and devout, the people started imagining Oyashiro as a cruel, vindictive male god who demanded innocent sacrifices. Regardless, as a god, Hanyuu had the power to loop through time via the Sea of Fragments. Rika, as a legitimate heir, inherits this ability. In fact, Hanyuu has watched over Rika since birth, even though nobody else can see her. She's like Rika's guardian angel, someone to speak with while living through their nightmarish time loop. The two even share their senses to an extent, and when Rika's angry, she intentionally consumes spicy food and wine, both of which upset Hanyuu. Contrary to what you might think of an ancient deity, Hanyuu is a timid, insecure girl who does not, in fact, condone violence. That said, when Rika's in danger, she'll step in and fight, even reincarnating for a time so that Rika can break out of the time loop. Living vicariously through Rika, she's always wanted to join their after-school club and play silly games together. A member of that club is Satoko Houjou, a pompous, playful young girl who loves setting traps for her friends. She and Rika are best friends attending Hinamizawa's mixed-grade schoolhouse. Satoko's mischievous pranks are, unfortunately, the product of her troubled home life and paranoia caused by Hinamizawa syndrome. Her mother divorced and remarried a number of men, forcing Satoko and her brother Satoshi to adjust to a revolving door of stepfathers. The stress from this provoked Satoko into the level 5, or terminal phase of the disease. She would prank her stepfathers by making up abuse stories, except she actually believed them. Her final stepfather made a public stance in supporting the Hinamizawa Dam project, which proposed turning the village into a massive dam. The village's great houses refused to evict their homes, feuding against the government and construction workers. In turn, this ostracized the Houjous from the community as traitors. Then, on one fateful day at Shirakawa Park, Satoko thought her parents were plotting to kill her. In delusional self-defense, she approached the two of them at a cliffside overlook. Her memories are vague, but she either pushed them off or relented at the last moment before the railing collapsed. In either case, Satoko's parents plummeted to their deaths, leaving her and Satoshi orphaned. To Mio's credit, treatment at the Irie clinic stabilizes Satoko's condition. The two orphans were taken to live with their aunt and uncle, Tamae and Teppei. These new guardians genuinely abused them, and Satoko would always cling to Satoshi for comfort. Desperate to protect his sister, and also under the influence of Hinamizawa syndrome, Satoshi murdered his aunt and supposedly fled the village. In response, Teppei moved in with his mistress, leaving Satoko all alone. She and Rika live together in a small house, and due to her former stepfather's stance on the dam project, many of the villagers still shun her unfairly. Her escape from all this is school, where she plays with her friends in various children's games, such as cards and tag. Her arc in the story revolves around Teppei's return to town, reigniting her abuse. He gains Satoko's servitude by threatening to wreck Satoshi's old room. Satoko's friends notice her trauma relapsing and try to save her by contacting child welfare services. It takes her friend Keiichi rallying the entire town to finally make an impact and have Teppei arrested. While I can sympathize with Satoko and her struggles, I can't possibly forgive her for what happens next. As her friends all graduate, Satoko and Rika promise to stay together. She reluctantly follows Rika's idea to attend St. Lucia, even though she's not adept at formal academics. Regardless, the two pass their entrance exams and embark on a new life outside the town. It isn't long until Rika finds new friends in high society, and Satoko struggles to keep up. In Satoko's defense, this school is a literal prison. Students who underperform are forced into a perpetual study hall, and they're disciplined in actual jail cells underground. As Satoko is tormented by these practices, Rika effectively abandons her. The events of Higurashi's reboot seasons center on Satoko gaining the same power as Rika. She becomes determined to adjust the timeline so that Rika chooses to stay in Hinamizawa. This involves completely undoing Rika's happy ending and casting both of them back into the town's horrific time loop. Satoko sabotages Rika's attempts at happiness, intentionally infecting their friends and community with Hinamizawa syndrome. It culminates in Satoko deliberately torturing and murdering Rika in an effort to break her spirit. The two ultimately have a shonen-style brawl, upon which they finally agree to part ways at graduation. It is truly the most toxic friendship in all of anime, and I blame Satoko for the way she handles it. She is so thorough in her villainy that she confronts her abuser Teppei and transforms him into a compassionate father figure, only to put a bullet in his brain. Her ambition is so strong that she kills the loving side of herself to engage in unhindered malice. Needless to say, the other waifu appear almost saintly in comparison to Satoko. Even so, the horror continues with Rena Ryuuguu, a strange girl who loves collecting junk she finds cute at the village's trash heap. She wants to take all the cute things home with her, including her own friends. Be careful though, for as much as she has a cute mode, she can be extremely scary when provoked. Rena's iconic for using a massive cleaver while under the influence of Hinamizawa syndrome. She was born in Hinamizawa to her fashion designer parents. For her mom Reiko's career, they moved to Ibaraki for a while, where it's discovered that Reiko is having an affair with her coworker. Upon getting pregnant with this man's child, Reiko wants to start a new family and take Rena with her. Loyal to her father, however, Rena refused, even if it meant being disowned by her mom. In the aftermath, Rena would cut herself in an effort to rid her body of her mom's filthy blood. She saw this whole ordeal as a curse from Oyashiro-sama for abandoning Hinamizawa. Sure enough, those with Hinamizawa syndrome tend to show exaggerated symptoms upon leaving, and in her paranoia, Rena attacked some of her classmates with a baseball bat and proceeded to shatter all of her school's windows. Because of this, she and her father moved back to Hinamizawa, where her symptoms appear to stabilize. While Rena wants her dad to be happy, she's now suspicious of other women. Her character arc revolves around her dad getting scammed by Teppei's mistress and fellow conman Rina. Her genuine concern, combined with her syndrome, prompt her to lure out and murder Rina at the junkyard. In her madness, she'll even take her classmates hostage. Only by remembering these crimes from previous timelines does Rena know to repent and rely on her friends to avoid further tragedy. Without being plagued by a horrible brain bug, Rena's actually a loving girl who learned to cook for her father and detests when people lie to her. I have no idea how she acquires such amazing skill with a cleaver, as she's normally so sweet and just a bit clumsy. She's very close to her male friend Keiichi Maebara, and the two of them go on to attend university together in timelines where the village survives extermination. Higurashi may not feature any of my personal favorite waifu, but Rena's still near the top relative to her own franchise. Her mom Reiko, however, is just a cheating harlot. Admittedly, I've got a thing for promiscuous girls. Even though she's a corrupt scam artist, I can't deny that Rina Mamiya is freakishly hot. Actually, her real first name is Ritsuko, relying on an alias for her dirty work. Her main occupation is a hostess at Blue Mermaid in the neighboring town of Okinomiya. Teppei is her pimp, and their side hustle is extorting male patrons off hours by having her pretend to be in love with them. This includes scamming Rena's father, even though he's trying to move on from his deceitful ex-wife. Ritsuko can be easily detected by the scent of her perfume, which Rena despises. She typically meets her end in one of two ways. Either she's tortured to death for stealing from the Yakuza, or she's murdered by Rena at the dump, whichever comes first, really. You can't feel too bad for her, though, given she was planning on killing Rena for a better chance at extorting her dad. In either case, her demise prompts Teppei to flee back to Hinamizawa, where he resumes his abuse of Satoko. Ultimately, Ritsuko's only value is her attractiveness, and it's a shame she uses it for evil. Within Hinamizawa stands the Sonozaki group, one of the village's great families, who are presumed to be descendants of demons. They are the de facto rulers of Hinamizawa, preserving its traditional customs. They also have ties to the Yakuza and own quite a bit of land and businesses in the local area. The family's darkest practices date back to ancient times, when the villagers employed rudimentary torture devices that are now stored in a secret underground dungeon. Our next waifu are a pair of twins born to succeed the Sonozaki family. Mion and her sister Shion were born back-to-back by their mother Akane. Since the family only needed one heir, the younger sibling was nearly murdered by her grandmother Oryou, but was luckily spared that terrible fate. From an early age, the twins realized they could easily pose as one another, and did so to share the burden of attending family meetings. This lasted until one day, the eldest daughter, supposedly Mion, was designated heir by having a large demon tattooed on her back. At the time, however, the sisters were switching roles, so it was actually the younger twin who was branded. To avoid exposing the secret, the siblings agreed to swap their birth names. Mion Sonozaki, then, is actually the younger sister who takes on the role of Sonozaki heir. She's a kind-hearted, fun-loving tomboy who also acts as class representative at school. Given the family's wealth, Mion has a substantial allowance, which she uses to fund game tournaments and other activities. She's the oldest in her student body, and so everyone nicknames her Oji-san. Despite that, she has a girly side and wants to be acknowledged as feminine. Too bad she shows this by teasing her crush Keiichi. A pivotal moment in her life is when Keiichi decides to gift her a doll he won. She interprets this as being a genuine contender for his affection, especially when that affection is rivaled by her more effeminate sister. Of all the waifu here, Mion proves to be the most resilient to Hinamizawa syndrome, possibly due to her sense of duty as Sonozaki heir. She never winds up killing anyone, at least until Satoko directly injects her with the disease. It's a bit ironic, given that she knows martial arts and carries around a holstered airsoft gun. Even though she has access to firearms, she never resorts to using them on her fellow villagers. While she's at times jealous of her sister, she's never malicious about it, and the girls sometimes still swap identities for fun. To hide her tattoo, Mion will even use waterproof makeup, allowing her to wear a bikini and not give herself away. I do love my tomboys, and I appreciate her boldness. Given their nearly identical appearance, I have to admit that Shion Sonozaki is also quite attractive. As I said before, she's the older sibling, but accepted the role of outsider after Mion was branded heir to the family. On orders from her grandma Oryou, Shion was sent to attend the prestigious yet corrupt St. Lucia's boarding school. She has since escaped that veritable prison, and now lives in the neighboring town of Okinomiya with her bodyguard Kasai Tatsuyoshi. Maintaining a close relationship with her sister over the phone, Shion will frequently return to Hinamizawa to attend classes there, or to hang out with Mion's group of friends. She was once saved from a group of thugs by Satoko's brother Satoshi, and she's been in love with him ever since. His sudden disappearance, then, causes her heartache, and she can only guess at the cause. Shion regrets not being able to comfort Satoshi as he was dealing with his abusive aunt and uncle. Most of the time, she views Satoko as a fellow sibling, someone worth protecting. But under the effects of Hinamizawa syndrome, she starts to blame Satoko's crying and weakness for chasing Satoshi away. She works part-time at Angel Mort, a family restaurant that dresses its waitresses in revealing uniforms. All the girls here could count as waifu all their own, but sadly none of them are given names. While on the clock, Shion meets Mion's friend Keiichi, who mistakes her for her sister. To an extent, Keiichi reminds Shion of Satoshi, and she treats him with affection, even though she knows Mion has feelings for him. Shion's main arc deals with her growing suspicion that the Sonozaki group, who already hated Satoshi's parents for supporting the dam project, have either kidnapped, exiled, or murdered him. She dishonors the family by professing her love for Satoshi, and is forced to atone through the nightmarish removal of her fingernails. Even though Mion also endures this torment, it's not enough to stop Hinamizawa syndrome from pushing Shion over the edge. She takes revenge on the family by trapping Mion in the Sonozaki dungeon and torturing her grandma Oryou. It's one of the more gruesome timelines in the series, especially when you consider that the Sonozakis actually had nothing to do with Satoshi's disappearance. Luckily, Shion is able to finally avenge and reunite with him in better timelines. I don't blame Shion for despising the Sonozaki group. Its current head is the old lady Oryou, who in my eyes is absolutely unforgivable. Apparently, she feels it's her duty to maintain old customs, as well as a stoic presence in the community. That, however, is no excuse for the horrible things she either orders or allows to happen under her command. Similar to the Yakuza being punished with the loss of fingers, it is customary for the Sonozakis to seek penance by having their fingernails ripped out. Even though Oryou's had this done to both herself and her daughter Akane, she still resorts to this method of torture on younger generations. By invoking the family's authority, Oryou can solve a lot of Higurashi's greater conflicts, such as Satoko's abuse, but chooses not to out of stubbornness or ignorance. Thus, anything redemptive she does feels like it should have been done ages ago, rendering what little compassion she shows negligible. Oryou's daughter, Akane Sonozaki, was meant to inherit the family from her. That changed when Akane chose to marry a Yakuza boss the family did not approve of. As part of Akane's punishment, she is denied her inheritance, instead having it transferred directly to Mion. This is messed up, considering Oryou directly benefits from these Yakuza ties. Regardless of the circumstance, Akane and her husband still speak on behalf of the family, and even though it can't be shown in public, she and her mom are actually close friends. So much nastiness and corruption emerges from this family, all in the name of saving face. The start of Higurashi is told from the perspective of Keiichi Maebara. He and his family moved to Hinamizawa on his dad's insistence. This dad's a famous artist who's inspired by young girls, and he's also a total perv. Keiichi's mom, Aiko, is a supportive yet underspoken housewife. She's a fan of detective and crime novels, even writing her own for a contest. If only she could realize what crimes and mysteries surround the entire town she now lives in. Hinamizawa's only school is taught by Chie Rumiko. She's a devout instructor who will go the extra mile for her students. When Satoko is being abused, Chie confronts her aggressor and even joins the students in protesting the child welfare office. Beyond that, much of Chie's character is written as a parody of Ciel from Tsukihime. This extends to her infatuation with curry, which has her visiting India multiple times each year to research and experience the very best curries. Insult her favorite dish at your own risk, as some have nicknamed her the Curry Demon. She'll even attack you with T-squares, reminiscent of Ciel's black keys. A key figure in saving Hinamizawa is Mamoru Akasaka, a police officer from Tokyo who visits the village on work while his wife, Yukie, is pregnant with their child. There, he meets Rika, who happens to know that Yukie is destined to die at the hospital from falling down the stairs. On most timelines, Mamoru's too weirded out to actually heed Rika's warning, but eventually, he returns home in time to save his wife, resulting in the birth of their daughter, Miyuki. Not to be confused with Tokyo the city, there is Tokyo, the political organization that backs research into Hinamizawa syndrome. Nomura is one of the organization's members, and she hopes to use the downfall of Hinamizawa to also dismantle Tokyo's old ruling factions. Thus, while she appears to support Mio Takano's research, it is merely the means to a wicked end. You might call her the story's true villain, though she rarely makes an appearance. Hell, we don't even know her real name. Our final waifu happens to be a more charismatic villain, known simply as Ayua. She is a powerful supernatural being who either lives in or travels to the Sea of Fragments. Her existence implies that there are even stronger beings in Ryukishi's fictional universe. That said, Ayua is a manipulative sociopath who loves watching the horrors that befall Hinamizawa. To perpetuate further disaster, she gives Satoko the ability to loop between realities, just like Hanyuu does for Rika. Beyond her sinister attempt to stave off boredom, Ayua's actual character is still a mystery, with fans debating various theories for her origin. Some believe she's a fragment of Hanyuu. Regardless, Ayua attempts to entrap Hanyuu and force her to watch Rika's continued torment. While Rika and Satoko settle their own score, Hanyuu breaks free to wound Ayua, reducing her to a child form. She relents her meddling, such that Satoko loses her powers. It's possible that Ryukishi has grander plans for her character, but so far, nothing concrete has emerged. That about does it for Higurashi's waifu. If you found this interesting, the original sound novels, games, and manga cover an even greater span of plot arcs, so many that it's hard to keep track of. They include a lot of waifu who are exclusive to that literature. That said, I've covered the most iconic characters in the story. Be sure to check out my full Waifu Files playlist for more exciting videos, and comment below which anime or games you want to see in a future episode. Catch you later!
Thanks for watching.
If you enjoy this channel, help us grow by liking, commenting, sharing the video, subscribing to OtakuDaiKun, and
most of all, smashing that notification bell so you don't miss out on all our anime lore, discussions, and Let's Play content.
You can support us directly through Patreon, Subscribestar, or a YouTube membership, all of which come with benefits like spicy exclusive vids and early access.
As always, celebrate your fandom. I want to give a special shout out to all my $10 and up supporters. Video Gamer 75, Dante Pendragon, Chaos Sonic 1, Trodai Connacht, Steven Elak, Otaku Mom, Jens Bauman, Mystic Samurai 1983, Free Brick, Olympian Doll, Lunar Works, Link Pendrago, Observer Bellis, James Hewitt, Uncanny EXP, Crow Calum, Saul Soto, Tristan Riggin, Major, Mayfu Mado, Dionysus, God of Wine and Madness, Caitlin P, Sogai CH, Vladimir Ovna, The Taz 96, Jonathan Padua, Kengo X 77, Alistair Bernadotte, and Akakaze Yume. Thank you all so much.